Although the sunlight was somewhat milder than during the day, even in the evening, the outside was as bright as during the daytime. Pharos and Orgus hurried to the market. Pharos had a dagger, hanging from his waist. The handle is set with a glowing red stone, and the blade is decorated with intricate patterns. And it was the only thing that Pharos' father left behind as a keepsake. He didn't usually carry it around, but he thought he would need it, if he was going to kill the prophet, as the old woman had said, so he took it. As they crossed the central square, a soldier called out to them. It was a familiar soldier from Orgos, named Helosmus. When Orgos was a child, he used to play with him often, before Pharos came to the town. Although Orgos had not had a chance to meet him, since he became a soldier, he had heard rumors that Helosmus was a serious man, skilled, and highly successful.
It's been a while,
said Helosmus, grinning as he grabbed Orgos' shoulder. Then he glanced at Pharos, and cleared his throat.
I have a message for you, from the old woman selling medicine.
Saying that, Helosmus looked alternately at Orgos and Pharos. After checking their reaction, Helosmus said, "Come on over here," and walked ahead of them, going back the way they had come. Pharos and Orgos nodded to each other, and followed Helosmus. Leaving the square, Helosmus led the way around the palace, where the king lived, towards the north gate.
By the way, who is that old woman?
Helosmus, who had been silent the whole time, asked as they left the town.
We don't know who she is. We met for the first time today. We just talked a little about the medicine the old woman was selling,
replied Orgos, walking behind Helosmus.
You said you had a message from the old woman, but what did she say?
Orgos asked. Helosmus stopped and turned around.
Well, she said you would come again sometime in the future, and asked me to lend him 2 horses. And she gave me these, said
Helosmus, taking out several gold coins from his pocket. Upon seeing them, Orgos and Pharos widened their eyes. They guessed that she was no ordinary woman, because she owned a lot of expensive glassware. But they never imagined she was rich enough to hand over such a large sum of money so easily.
If she could give me so much money like this, I'd be happy to give her a couple of horses. However, I'm not allowed to accept this money, and also I don't personally own any horses. So I suggested that if she had this much money, she should just buy the horses directly from the owner, but the old woman refused. Furthermore, she said that she would pay an additional fee to rent the horses from the horse lender. The money she gave was, in a sense, a fee for the trouble. I had intended to refuse, but somehow, I found myself agreeing without realizing it.
Helosmus looked disappointed, as if he hadn't really meant it.
But she sure was a creepy old woman. I don't know where she came from, but there's no way a mere medicine seller would have that much money. From the looks of it, she must have even more. Do you really not know anything about the old woman's true identity?
Orgos and Pharos shook their heads. We came back because we thought we might be able to cure Emelua, Orgos said. Helosmus knew about Emelua, too. Upon hearing that she was ill, Helosmus patted Orgos on the shoulder to encourage him. And he didn't inquire any further. After walking a little further, they came to a horse lending shop on the northern outskirts of the town, where Helosmus asked them to wait a moment, and went into the stables. 2 horses, one white and one brown, were tied up in front of the store. The horses were lazily wagging their tails, without even looking at them. After a while, Helosmus emerged from the hut accompanied by the balding, chubby shopkeeper. The shopkeeper looked at the 2 in their worn clothes, with a quizzical expression. But when his eyes met with Helosmus, who was standing nearby, he rubbed his hands and gave a friendly smile. Then he pulled the horses away from the stall, and handed the reins to Pharos and Orgos.
So, what should we do now?
Orgos asked, stroking the cheek of the chestnut horse he had been handed.
If you leave the north gate and head straight north, there is a vast forest. The old woman told me to tell you to come to that forest. Is she waiting there? Well, I didn't hear that far, but wouldn't you figure it out if you went there? I just assumed you guys knew. Besides, there was no room for me to ask questions at that moment.
Orgos and Pharos looked at each other, then mounted their horses in silence. Thinking won't get them anywhere, they have no choice but to go and see for themselves. They thanked Helosmus and rode off north.